Hello, my name is Denise Boyko, and I will be presenting a message entitled Homeschooled and Headed for College. Homeschooling has come a long way in the past couple of decades, and one of the biggest questions has been always, how can homeschoolers get into college? Are there any tricks, techniques, things that you need to know about to make a successful college application? And there is a lot of information out there now, a lot of resources, so that's very gratifying. But it can be sometimes overwhelming to try to wade through all the resources, things about standardized tests and AP courses and college applications and what do you call your school. So I've written a book with the same title, Homeschooled and Headed for College, that will go through in pretty good detail, but in an organized, orderly way, things that homeschoolers would like to know and should know about applying to college. So today, in the time that we have, I'm going to do an overview of the high points of things that you might want to consider and things that you do definitely need to know about applying to college as a homeschooler. So just to give you a little bit of background on myself, again my name's Denise Boyko, and my husband and I homeschooled both of our kids. We have 2 kids, and we homeschooled them all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. Both of them are finished with college now. Our daughter graduated from Stanford as a biology major and is now in medical school. Our son graduated just this past spring from USC in Southern California, and he was an engineering major and is now working in his first job. So with ourselves being on the other side of the whole adventure, towards the end of that process, I began writing this book to help other homeschoolers. We had to do quite a bit of research ourselves to find out how we can be, since we don't have a guidance counselor down the hall, how we can be our own guidance counselor, how we can get the information that we need, and with all the things we found out, I wanted to put it out there for other homeschoolers. So just to give you the information about it, the book covers the items I have here on the screen right now and a whole lot more. 400 pages long, so there's plenty of information in there. My website at homeschoolroadmap.com also has a few articles and little tips for the college prep process. So if you are interested, you can go to that website to order the book or just to look at the articles on the site. The focus today, there is no way we can go through every little detail that you possibly need to know about how to homeschool all the way to college, but I do want to hit the high points, the highlights of the things that maybe have the most frequent questions and ideas that will get you going, especially if you're early in the high school process. It's ideal to start thinking about these things in 9th grade or so. You won't be too late if you start a little bit later, but by thinking about these in 9th grade, maybe even 8th grade, you can put yourself on a path where you can start to develop your passions and get ready for the SAT and choose courses that are really going to help you in your college path. So I would encourage anybody to start thinking about these things at a younger age than you might realize, because it'll bring a lot of peace of mind to you later. So I'm going to go to the next slide here and we will get started. So first thing is, before you even have the application for college in hand, there's a lot of groundwork you have to do. There's a lot of homework, there's a lot of study and thinking and planning, and so I'm calling this the pre-application process. Basically, you want to think ahead, you want to be proactive instead of reactive, and one task on that is to prepare a strong lineup of courses. If your student, I'm talking to students and parents, I know, so if you as a student are highly academic and you've got some skills in particular areas, you're going to want to try to challenge yourselves in those areas, so that when you do present your transcript to the college, you've definitely shown that you've put all your effort into the areas that you're good at or the areas that you wanted to improve in. Any student, whether you consider yourself highly academic or not, you're going to have strengths, you're going to have weaknesses, you're going to have areas that you want to improve in and areas that you want to show the college your talents and abilities. So you want to put together a lineup of courses, number one, that the college is requiring, and that's generally posted on their website, and then also for just getting ready for you being a college student. So selecting rigorous courses is actually quite important. The types of courses you might want to consider in addition to the regular classes you're doing at home are honors courses, which is simply a homeschool course that's enhanced with additional rigor to it. So extra problem solving in math, extra essay writing, more difficult literature reading in English, more expectations, higher expectations. A nudge above that, in fact, often very large nudge about that, is the advanced placement courses. These are offered various places out in the community. You can find a lot of online advanced placement courses. You can find local courses. They have to be approved by the college board. You can't just create a course in your homeschool and call it advanced placement. There's a procedure for that. But the advantage of advanced placement is you can gain college credit if you pass the test with a certain score, or you can be bumped up to advanced standing once you do go to college. So advanced placement, I highly recommend looking into that. It's become, at least for the selective colleges, it's become quite expected that applicants will come in with a few advanced placement courses. So you definitely want to look into that and see if that's for you. Now, community college is another great option that you can do some of your homeschool, high school work over at the community college. You can take 1 or 2 courses per year, and the nice thing about this is it starts to go on your college record as well. So you get college credit as well as continuing on with your high school studies. So looking into community college classes is a great idea as a homeschooler. And I would say one of the more fun options as a homeschooler is to participate in co-ops, which would be homeschool group classes where a lot of different families group together and either parents or outside teachers come in and teach the courses. These can be places to make friends, places to do things that you might not have been able to do at home, maybe group discussions and science labs and things like that. So these are some options that you might want to think about as you plan the course lineup, being a 9th grader looking ahead to the high school years. So these are things that are great to think about ahead of time. Another thing you want to think about as we stay in this what I call pre-application process is you do want to start thinking about, okay, what college might I want to go to? If you start to get a list of 3 or 4 or 5 colleges that you're interested in, maybe they're places you've visited, or maybe you know someone that goes there. You want to get on that college website and start familiarizing yourself with what they require of you. You would hate to find out that this particular college wants you to take 4 years of laboratory science as a high schooler, and you only found this out in your junior year. So familiarizing yourself with more or less what's being asked of you ahead of time there is a great idea and very wise. That way you can start tailoring your coursework. So suppose you've got a list of colleges. Some of them look like they're going to be fairly easy to get into, some of them moderate, and some of them might be rather difficult to get into, and they might be quite a stretch. You should tailor your coursework. By that I mean the rigorous courses, maybe a few AP courses. Tailor it to meet the requirements of the most selective college that you're interested in, and that way you're automatically going to be qualified for the other ones. Another thing that is really very wise to do as a homeschooler is just to blend SAT or ACT preparation into your regular coursework in those first 3 years of high school. This is where homeschoolers have a little bit of an advantage because you can merge this in with much of your regular coursework. In a traditional school, you would be doing your coursework and then separately you'd have to do SAT prep. As a homeschooler, this can be designed into your English classes, your math classes, so that a little bit at a time you are preparing for the SAT. So this is a smart way to do that. Now let's talk about the actual college application process. It generally starts up in the fall of your senior year with various deadlines. There's going to be some colleges, if you want an early answer to whether you're accepted or not, that deadline is going to be fairly early in the fall, like usually November 1st. Most of the applications are going to be due sometime in December or January. So the fall of your senior year is going to be taken up with trying to get all these pieces together. I'm going to quickly overview the pieces right now, and we're going to look into each one of these in more detail as we go on. But the application itself will have a place for you to list your extracurricular activities. So if you were in clubs or community organizations, sports, any type, speech and debate, any type of thing that you did outside of your normal schoolwork, you'll have places to list that. Leadership positions, if you were the leader, the president, the supervisor of something, then that would be an important thing to list because colleges do look for leadership. If you have received academic honors or awards in any of your schoolwork or extracurriculars, you will be able to list that. And then employment and volunteer work. It's not necessarily required that you have a paid job, but it's good to have something, either paid work or volunteer work, to show that you are doing something else out in your community. That will boost your chances. Another element of the application is the transcript. High school transcript is the listing of all the courses you took as a high schooler with the grades that you received and the credits that each course was worth. It's all on usually one sheet of paper, and this is sent along to the college so they can see what courses you took. Course description. This is something that traditionally schooled students would not need to have because the school automatically keeps course descriptions and the college can access that information from the school. But since every homeschooling setup is a little bit different, many colleges do ask that the parent or whoever the homeschool supervisor is send them the course descriptions of what did this course focus on, what were the textbooks or resources that were used, what was the level of this course, what topics did this math course or English course cover. So that's something that it's wise for homeschooling parents to hang on to this information as you go through the years of high school so that you'll have these ready by the time of college. These are generally one paragraph or two paragraphs, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Test scores. It has to be SAT or ACT test scores, but it can also include AP test scores if you've taken the AP, and it can be SAT subject tests if you've taken the shorter 1 hour long subject tests. These will be sent both unofficially and then officially to the college. Officially, I mean straight from the testing organization like College Board. Application essay. This is something that you have totally under your control when you file your application your senior year. You can't do anything more about your grades. You can't really control what your recommenders are going to write about you. But here is a chance to talk about yourself, your goals, what you want to do. And we're going to have a couple slides later on what you should have in that essay. Teacher recommendations. If you have taken outside courses from teachers that are not your parents, these are people that you're going to probably ask for recommendations. Colleges usually need 1 or maybe 2 teacher recommendations. And a counselor recommendation, usually this is done by the parent. In a regular school, this would be by the guidance counselor or the college prep counselor. But generally, it's the parent that will speak as if they are your counselor and rate you on certain areas and then write a letter that describes your experience. So this is kind of an overview of the things that will be sent in when you send in that application. Okay, so now thinking still in this overview process, I want to point out one thing that I think is probably the most important element. If you get nothing else out of today's presentation, I want you to remember that your goal is to show your passions in one area or 2 areas, the things that really make you tick, the things that will distinguish you from the other applicants. Colleges will have thousands of applicants and can only pick a certain number. A lot of them will look exactly alike because they'll have similar GPAs, they'll have similar test scores, even a similar lineup of extracurricular activities. But you should have something that is going to distinguish you from the others. It doesn't necessarily have to mean you have to have national recognition, but just something that is a passion, something you love to do, something that shines through with the activities you've chosen and the things you say in your essay. So be thinking about, what do you really love to do? What can you show the college that makes you different from others? It used to be that high school students would think, okay, I want to be a well-rounded student. I want to join a math club and a journalism activity and a sport and a community activity, and they just figure if they do a little bit of everything, they're going to look very, very well-rounded, and that's going to look really good. And that probably used to be true, but now there are many students that look just like that. So colleges are actually more interested in choosing, okay, here's a student that is passionate about journalism. Oh, and over here, here's a student who's passionate about math or science. We can bring them into our college, and they're going to add to the atmosphere or environment that we have here. So we want this student that is showing really strong abilities and strong passions in this area. So instead of well-rounded, think of yourself as having a particular strength, and you're going to want to display that to college. Now the good news is, as a homeschooler, you are pretty well positioned to be able to show your passions and develop your passions over the years, because you have a more flexible day. You might be able to do a part-time job during school hours and get your schoolwork done later on. The part-time job could be in the area of your passion. Or you might be able to travel and do some really fantastic extracurricular activity based on a flexible ability to travel. Or you might have a sport that you take to a very high degree and practice many, many hours a day because you're able to do your schoolwork around it. So you are in a good position as homeschoolers to develop those passions, and I really encourage you to be thinking about what you want to do and what is going to display your loves of things you love to do to the college. Okay, so next slide. Common application. Now, you may or may not have heard of the Common Application. It's found at commonapp.org. I'm going to use this as sort of my sample typical college application as we talk about what's on a typical college application. The reason I'm using this one is this is an application that is accepted by more than 500 colleges and universities nationwide. So it sort of sets the standard for many, many things that are asked on other college applications too. And you may very well be filling out the Common Application for at least one of your colleges and maybe more. It breaks down into several different forms inside this application, so I'm going to run through these quickly and we'll talk about them more in detail. So the application itself is just filling out different pieces of the application, lists of your extracurriculars, your awards, things like that. The school report is a portion that in a regular school this would be completed by the counselor, but for homeschoolers generally it's completed by the parent, or if you are part of a homeschooling organization where you have an administrator that does this, they would fill it out. The parent will complete this and then also upload a transcript to the Common Application. The teacher recommendation is another element. We talked about that a moment ago. And then if you are applying to a college that wants a little bit more information about you, they may also have what's called a supplement. The supplement would be another piece of the application that you would see once you logged on to the Common App and chose that school. You might see, okay, here is a university that wants an extra essay beyond the main essay. And they also want me to answer these short answer questions here. And they also want to find out if I have any family members that attended here. So the supplement will be something specific to a particular college. So you might find yourself filling out the main Common Application and then maybe anywhere from 1 to 5 supplements depending on your colleges you've chosen and whether they require it or not. So there's the overview of that. So Common Application is not the only application out there. You'll find that the public universities, so your state universities, and then many private universities will have their own application. So you can't just fill out the Common Application and consider yourself done. You need to be aware of the different colleges you are applying to and what they actually want. State university applications usually going to be a little more cut and dried, not a lot of extra things to fill out, but they have their own hoops to jump through for sure. And the way you're going to know what you're going to need to do is to study these websites of the colleges you're interested in very early in the game. That way there'll be no surprises and no panic at the end there. So let's talk about the high school transcript in a little more detail. Sometimes this word is rather intimidating because it just seems like something that's so official and can only possibly come from a real school. Not that homeschooling is not a real school. But people do get a little intimidated about it and wonder how to do it. I have a major section in my book all about how to do a transcript, and it's got samples on there and what to put on it and what not to put on it. But basically all it is, it's a list of the courses you took during high school. Usually they're organized by year and semester, but you can also do a transcript that's organized by subject, so all your math courses in a row, all your English courses in a group, and so forth. You will include the name of the course, you will include what grade you got, you will include how many credits it was worth. Most courses for high schoolers throughout the nation are on the Carnegie unit, where a 1-year course is 1 unit. In California, its 1-year course is 10 credits or 10 units. But anyway, you would have the credits, which is a relative figure showing how much time was spent on the course. So you want to keep your transcript clean and professional looking. No handwritten transcripts, no messy transcripts with odd spacing and things crammed into the corners and all. You want to make it as neat and clean as possible. Course titles need to be rather simple because you're not going to have a whole lot of space by the time you list them all, and yet descriptive enough to show what that course was all about. And again, there's a lot more detail on this in my book. Credits and grades for each course and semester, and from that you're going to calculate and report a GPA. I usually like to report the GPA for every semester, and then also a cumulative GPA, which is everything to date has been such and such a GPA when you average it all out. So those are the basic elements of the transcript. Now, going along with the transcript, since I mentioned earlier that schools that are traditional schools are much more, they have these course descriptions already laid out, and colleges can have access to that information if they need to. But for homeschoolers, some colleges will actually request that you send them your course descriptions so that they can just clarify what you did in each course. These are a way to show the rigor of your courses. So if you were listing the topics that you covered, and it's a math course with some pretty advanced topics, then they will realize what level of course you had. It is a great way to demonstrate that your homeschooling is both organized and professional. If you have the foresight to keep course descriptions and to present them in a nice, neat format, that will raise their opinion of you. The estimation of you and your homeschooling will only go up from there. So things to include in the course descriptions. Generally, it's just 1 or 2 paragraphs per course. You will quickly find that if you had a 1-page description on every single course, this document is going to be huge because if you've got like 6 or 7 courses per year and 4 years, you could have a 30-page document before you knew it. So stay to 1 or 2 paragraphs, and then a list of the main resources and textbooks. If it's an English course, you could put the reading list, what literature was read that year. And then you might also want to include, wise idea to include, where these courses were taken, because they were not all in your homeschool, and the credentials of the outside instructors. This will also show the college that you were not, locked in your room all day doing math, English, and science, but you got out in the community, you had accountability to outside instructors, you met with other students and were able to work as a team, and they will see that your homeschooling had quite a lot of different aspects to it. So these are things that you can include in your course descriptions. Now let's go on to the next chunk here, the next element. This would be the test scores, either SAT or ACT. Now you do not need to take both. You would generally pick the one you're going to do best on, and the way you know that is by taking some practice tests. It used to be that on the East Coast and West Coast, most everybody took the SAT, and in the Midwest, people were taking the ACT. Now it's kind of all over the map. You would just want to coach yourself for one of them and do your very best. Now, unfortunately, for homeschooled students, the test scores might end up being more important than grades, and that's because the college sees them as a little more standardized. So you do want to try to do as well as you can on these tests. But as mentioned before, you can blend your SAT and ACT prep into your English and math work all the way from freshman through junior years. So you might as well have that advantage there is blending it into your coursework. As for how to prepare, there's loads and loads of prep books out there. You can buy them in bookstores or online. There are online courses, and there's even local classes that you can go to. Some of these are more expensive than others. The most inexpensive way to prepare is simply by using prep books, and you can go a long way in preparation just by doing that. So if the student is motivated enough, you can pretty much get your prep done by prep books. Sometimes some students will enjoy doing it with other students though. So, but again, I would encourage you to start preparing early, like maybe start preparing in 9th grade or 10th grade. You want to aim to take these tests by the spring of your junior year. The reason is because you will sort of get a baseline score in your junior year, and then you will see if you like that score or not. If you don't like that score, you can study during the summer and then take it one more time in the fall, possibly even 2 more times in your senior year. So aim to be ready and able to take the test the first time in spring of your junior year, but you can take it earlier also. Now, some colleges also require the SAT subject tests. What these are is 1-hour tests which will gauge your abilities and your knowledge in one particular subject area. So there's a test for English literature, there's a couple of different math tests, there's biology, there's physics, there's a lot of different foreign languages, a couple different history courses, and again, these are just 1-hour tests. For homeschoolers, sometimes you'll find that the college will be asking you to take a few subject tests. So you need to know that ahead of time so you can prepare for those also. And then we already mentioned that some students do better on the SAT and some the ACT. You just got to know which one you want to take and focus on that. Now, the application essay. This is a part of the application that is designed to show you, your personality, your character traits, your accomplishments, and your goals. This might be a point in your application where you might want to highlight your homeschooling. So, in other words, if you had several opportunities because of your homeschooling to do some special activities, some special extracurriculars, competitions, things like that, you can focus on that. If you know that your homeschooling made you a more independent learner, you can show reasons for that. What you don't want to do in the college essay is just make it a resume that you've put in paragraph form. The college will have all that information in other areas of your application, so you want to make this a much more rich, deep examination of 1 or 2 particular areas. So you might want to use little details, anecdotes, anything you can do to show and not just tell what you've been up to during the high school years. So you might want to get ahead of time get books that have sample essays in them so you can kind of get the feel of what this is all about. Again, in my book I have 3 or 4 different sample application essays and 2 chapters, I believe it's 2 chapters all about the application essay. The idea of the application essay is more of a close-up. It's not this overview of I did this, I did that, I did this. It's here is one activity that meant a lot to me and created a great deal of personal growth, and then you explain that in detail. What I just mentioned, you want to highlight your growth, emotions that you felt while you were doing this. If it was an experience that caused maybe possibly even sadness, but maybe exhilaration, a realization, maybe you realized something about yourself that put you on a different path. Maybe it's an activity that cemented what goals you want to have. If this was the time that you decided you wanted to go into the medical field because you experienced a medical problem either in yourself or a loved one, and then this set the tone of your path, that could be something to write about. You don't want to make it sound really stuffy or scholarly. You don't want to drag out all your 4-syllable words and stuff them in there. And you also, this is the tricky part, you want to illuminate or highlight your accomplishments, but you don't want to sound like you're bragging. There can be a trick to that, and sometimes you need to have people read over your essay and help you so that you can go through several drafts and get the, any type of bragging out of it. But you do need to show them your accomplishments, so it's important to not gloss over that. I meant to also say on the application essay, the place you will find the prompts is, for instance, on the Common application. The prompts are listed there, and you can go to it even if it's not your year to apply yet, or you can even search for it online and the prompts will come up. You can just say Common application essay prompts. For many years they were the same, and then this past year they changed them and they put up several new prompts. They will probably be the same prompts now for several years to come. Other colleges that are not on the Common application, you can go to that college website and read what their essay prompts are, and generally they do not change a great deal. So you can be drafting these essays perhaps your junior year or summer before senior year. So let's talk about teacher recommendations. The difficulty sometimes with homeschoolers is maybe most of your courses were taught by your parent, and with homeschooling you may not have a lot of outside teachers. So it's a good idea to try to take some courses outside your homeschool so that you will have some teachers that can recommend you. So you want to choose someone who knows you well. Ideally, maybe someone you've had for several different classes. This could be in a co-op setting or a community college, or just someone else who maybe taught you a group course with other homeschoolers. So they should know you well. Ideally, they should be from your junior and senior year. Usually colleges will ask for that, 11th or 12th grade teachers. So be thinking about that as you choose your outside courses. Once in a while, you will be allowed to submit a non-academic recommendation. This would be someone who did not teach you, but maybe was your employer or a supervisor in a volunteer position, a coach or a pastor if you're involved in a church. These can be people to use for a sort of a secondary recommendation. To do your homework before the teacher is ready to write their recommendation, number one, you want them to know you well, but you want to tell them what your goals are and your ambitions. They should be able to write about some of that in the letter. It might help if you give them a type of a resume document before they write the letter, and then they're going to be able to make more comments on what you were doing outside the class along with what they saw you doing within the class. As far as being considerate to the person that's going to write the recommendation, you want to make sure that they have everything they need. Usually these days it's going to be some sort of a link or an email address. In the Common Application, there's an electronic method to invite a teacher, and then they get an email. They'll get a login, they'll get a password. Other colleges that are not on the Common Application will probably have some similar form. There are a few colleges that would still use old-fashioned snail mail. If that's the case, you want to give them the form, the address to send it to, preferably a stamped envelope, and make sure that they know what the deadlines are. It's considerate to give them 3 or 4 weeks notice before the deadlines, because it can take a while to write these letters sometimes. And then if you have not heard a word from them from the time you invited them, you might want to give them a brief reminder just a few days before the deadline, just to make sure everything is still okay. Now, in addition to the teacher recommendation is from an outside teacher. But for what we would call the school report on the Common Application, this is a type of a counselor recommendation. Again, if you were in a traditional school, this would be written by your counselor. Since you're not in a traditional school, it's usually going to be your parent. You should usually check with colleges to see who they want to write this part of the application, but usually it's the parent. The parent will need to rate the student on several different qualities. These are similar qualities to what your teachers will rate you. They're going to be things like independence, initiative, reaction to setbacks, intellectual curiosity, responsibility, maturity, all kinds of things like that. And then the parent will also write a very detailed evaluation letter of maybe 2 pages, 3 pages long. This is actually a good opportunity because the parent can use some of this space in writing the letter to talk about the opportunities that the student was able to pursue because of homeschooling. They might be able to talk about things that you were not able to fit in your own personal essay or elsewhere in the application. Parents should be forewarned, though, this is not the time to go back into the childhood and say how cute the baby was and how fast they learned to walk and things like that. It should be very much a professional tone. And not just bragging about your child. This is very hard to get this tone just right. But if you say something about one of their highlights or one of their characteristics, you should be able to back it up with some specific details. So you can show how they showed initiative by they started an organization or they started tutoring disadvantaged students because they had a compassion for students that did not have enough educational opportunities. So whenever you say a particular characteristic, you should also back it up. Another way you can back it up is what other people have said about the student. So parents should start kind of mentally collecting a list of what other people have said about the student so that this can be providing evidence later on in the letter. Then along with the, this is still called the school report, parents will then upload the transcript and the course descriptions so that the college has a whole complete picture and package of this student's homeschooling experience. Now, the colleges that are not on the Common Application may have a similar type of report that they want the parent or homeschool supervisor to fill out. You just need to figure out in what way they want to receive that information. Now, there was a form that used to be on the Common Application. It was on there as recently as last year. I've kept a section for it here, but mostly just to tell you the homeschool supplement is no longer on the Common Application. It used to be a whole separate form that you had to fill out. But instead, there is a part of the application that's going to ask about your educational philosophy, what was your grading scale, what other outside course providers did the student use. So this is where you would place that information. Another good idea is you might want to create a detailed school profile that would explain these elements of your homeschool. You know, why were you homeschooling? Did you do a classical approach, highly academic approach, unschooling, where the student just followed his or her own desires and passions? So, you know, how did we do the grading scale? How did we seek out courses? You can present a document like this and upload that to the college. And then we mentioned the college-specific supplements. It varies college to college. Some of them don't need any supplements at all. Some of them just need a few sentences from you on, do you have any relatives that are alumni? What major do you want? But some colleges will ask you maybe 3 or 4 more essays. Some of them shorter, some of them longer. So you do need to know about these supplements in order to budget your time and just be able to get them what they want. So let's see, let me go on here. Now, how do you know what you're going to need for a certain college? And the big piece of advice is you just need to start early. So go on the websites, make sure you've got the information you need. There's always going to be questions, and we're going to go over some common questions in a moment. But email the colleges, you can call them, and a great way is to do college visits ahead of time. So if you're in the area of that college, even if it's only 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, pay them a visit, sit in on an information session, and maybe even in the smaller colleges you can actually sit down with an admissions counselor or admissions staff and get a lot of your questions answered. This will head you in the right direction to choosing your classes and figuring out if this is the place for you. State university systems can be quite bureaucratic. They process thousands upon thousands of applications. They may not understand homeschooling. So that is something to consider. Ask people that you know who have applied there successfully if they've got tips for your own particular local state university. They may present more hoops to jump through. Usually this is in the form of extra SAT subject tests or extra documentation about your courses. Now, the Ivy League universities and other highly selective universities are actually understandably going to require more of you. They are going to want more essays, probably higher test scores, more rigorous courses, so you need to know about that ahead of time. The good news about these courses or these colleges is they usually understand homeschooling. They get it. They like this idea because it shows students with independence and initiative. So at least you will not be in the situation of having to defend or explain your homeschooling as much to the Ivy Leagues. Now, I mentioned a moment ago that there are questions you might want to ask colleges. These are things that might not come out on their websites, that just might be individual to that college, and you might be even the first person to ask them this question. So one would be, okay, do you actually need these course descriptions? How detailed should they be? Who should fill out the school report? We mentioned that it's usually the parent. If you don't have any outside teachers, you might have to ask the college, okay, I don't have any outside teachers. Who would you like for me to fill out the teacher recommendation? Can I submit extra recommendations? So here, like from a work supervisor or a pastor or a coach. And do you want any extra information from me? Do I need to clarify my homeschooling in any additional way for you? And these are good to know ahead of time. A couple more questions here. Will I be asked to take more SAT subject tests or any other type of exams? Is there an additional essay question that you want just homeschoolers to do, like describing my homeschool? If I've taken community college courses during high school, how do you want the transcript? Do you want it straight from the college? Or can the college send me an official transcript and I put it in an envelope and send it on to you with a cover letter so that you don't mix me up with a transfer student? So things like this. And then can I send some things in the mail? Obviously lots of colleges are going to completely online systems now, but many colleges will still be able to receive some things by mail, but you definitely need to check ahead of time. Um, there is a language I like to call admissionese. It's spoken by colleges, admission offices who know a lot about traditional students, but they might not understand homeschooling. So you might want to try to speak their language. And so I've given some examples here. I'm not going to go into huge detail with this, but if you were in a traditional school and you could be in student government, you could be student body president, you could be social activities director. You don't necessarily have that in homeschooling, but think about what you do have. Okay, you're out in community activities or church activities, you've done service projects, maybe you've started a whole new group. That is every bit as important as student government. Clubs, here's some examples of things you can use for clubs. High school sports, you might have other opportunities out in the community or maybe even with a local private school. So these are things that you can place on your application in the boxes and lines that they'd be looking for things from traditional schools. Here's a few more. If you can't be in a traditional school doing the school newspaper and yearbook, you might be able to get on the staff of a community newspaper. Maybe they want someone to be like a teen editor and report on happenings in your community for teens or issues important to teens. There are online magazines, you can start a blog, writing contests, or even your homeschool group might want to start a yearbook or a newspaper. At any rate, what you want to do is you want to highlight your skills. You have the skills, you've used the skills, you've demonstrated the skills, and now you want to make sure that the college understands that you have leadership, initiative, you've done the community service, and you've developed people skills, organizational skills, every bit as much, maybe even more, than the traditional students. Deadlines are extremely important. If you think about it, you could do all this work to prepare for college, take all the SAT exams, write your essays, but if you miss the deadline, there's no going back. I would say 99% of the colleges will not take a late application. It's sort of the first step in proving yourself able to do college work is to be able to meet deadlines. So you do want to keep track of these deadlines. What we did when our students were applying is we made a big list of all the colleges, all the scholarship deadlines, and literally posted it on the fridge because we knew we'd be going there several times a day. And so you want to just keep track of these various deadlines, financial aid deadlines as well as the application deadlines. And a very, very smart trick is to give yourselves a few days of margin before the actual deadline. So something is due December 1st, tell yourself it's actually due November 23rd. And that way, if something happens, which these things do, you might get sick, your computer might have a problem, just a particular piece of the application element is not coming in the way you want it to, then you'll have a little bit of a cushion and you won't need to panic. So this is a very smart thing to do that I would recommend. The key element, as I kind of sum up here, is passion. That's the one thing I would tell everybody who applies, is be able to show your passion. And this means taking yourself to the next level in activities that you love. Don't just do things to have a list of things that look great on the application, but instead you want to innovate things, you want to join clubs and join community activities, and you want to lead in this area of passion. I have a string of verbs here that I want to point out, all these different things you can do in your area of passion. So you can learn it, so you can go take more classes in it or take more training, more lessons. You can teach it to others, maybe to children or to less experienced people. You can work in your area of passion by getting a job, either a paid job or volunteer. Play, in other words, when you have spare time, you can be dabbling even more in this area of passion so that you can increase your skills. And then volunteer, out in the community or even maybe out of your home. You can do something that would be helpful to other people. So if you are very good at math, you could be tutoring as a volunteer. If you are very good at, say, playing the violin, you could go play your violin to a home with elderly people, to be out in the community just using your gift and passion. So you always want to be looking for ways you can show the leadership and initiative, gain some honors and awards, and maybe even get some regional or national recognition through your passion. This is something that's going to show the college that you really love what you do and you're going to continue doing it when you're in college. So I'm back to this slide. That's just the basic slide with the title of the presentation. And that's because it's now time for questions. So if you want to submit a question, you can type that in, and I will answer a few of them in the next few minutes here. And so think about things that you might want to be asking about. In the meantime, I wanted to go over one thing here that I didn't really delve into, since we've got a little bit of time here. One is how can, let's see, I have it here. What are the pros and cons of community college courses? So a lot of students do take community college courses during their homeschooling years. Actually, traditional students do also. There are pros, there are cons. Let's take the cons first. One maybe disadvantage is it's going to make your schedule a whole lot more rigid because you've got to be there for that course once a week, twice a week. And so you want to be able to be in a place where you can have that in your schedule. Another thing is these courses go pretty rapidly, so you cannot do it at your own pace. You're going to have to keep up with where the rest of the class is going. But I would say, all in all, those are fairly minor disadvantages. The advantages are you can get some experience in a classroom environment where you are with other students, you're with an outside teacher, the expectations are higher, and you can kind of test yourself on how you're doing on being able to understand college level work and to excel at it. You can also be starting to build a few different, I'll just say transcript, but of your college courses, because many of these courses may transfer when you actually go to the university. So you can build your college courses, your college credits, while you're still in high school. And of course, this is going to show a higher level of rigor on your when you do apply to your college. So community college classes are a good thing if you can fit them into your schedule and if there are some areas that you would like to participate in. Okay, so should I take SAT subject tests? This is the test I mentioned a little while ago where, unlike the regular SAT, which is called the SAT reasoning test, which is like 3.5 hours long, the subject tests are just 1-hour tests in a particular area of interest. Now, sometimes it is dictated by your college that you're applying to that you should take some subject tests, and so they will tell you maybe they want you to take 3 of them. Okay, so you would study for either areas that you are good at, or areas that the college is actually requiring of you. So you'll want to figure out which ones you're going to take, and you'll want to map out a schedule of when you can take them. You can't take them on the same day as the regular SAT, for instance, but you can take 1, 2, or even 3 subject tests on one day. So you should take them in areas that you are good at if you get to choose. If you don't get to choose, they might be saying you have to take a math, a science, and humanities. The other thing with the subject tests is you should take them at the end of the year when you finish studying that course. So if you did biology and you know that you're going to be taking an SAT biology course, you need to do it at the time, you say at the end of that school year. The other way you could do it is you take the biology course, you're done in May or June, and then you can study during the summer and take the SAT subject test in the fall. That's another way to do it. So again, it's all a bunch of planning. This goes on your fridge too for things that you're planning to do. Another side question that has come up on that one is with SAT subject test requirements for college, can you use AP test scores instead? It pretty much depends on the college. AP test scores are definitely at a higher level than subject tests, so many colleges will be perfectly fine with that. You just need to check with the college. But this actually brings up another good point. Here in California with the UC system, University of California, they ask homeschoolers to clear several requirements, and you can clear these requirements if you don't have an accredited course, which most homeschoolers don't. If you don't have an accredited course, you can clear it with either an AP test score, or you can clear it with a subject test score, or a community college course, or an approved online course. So You do need to double check with the college, but it might very well be that an AP test score will be perfectly fine for the subject test because it is at a higher level. Another thing here is people often ask this question: is it hard for homeschoolers to adjust to college? And you might think, okay, you've been home all your life, and how hard is it to get into the college routine? I have now known several, actually many, homeschoolers that have gone to college, and it is generally a pretty smooth transition, mostly because the homeschoolers are already accustomed to working independently. So I would say it's no more difficult than it would be for a traditional student to adjust to college. And let's see, and there's another one here I want to answer. Do you have any recommendations on how to organize courses on a transcript for a student graduating in 3 years? This does come up sometimes because homeschoolers will have an earlier graduation date. You might want to do that as a subject-based transcript instead of chronological, where you just list all the math courses, all the lab science, all the English, so that you can show the college that you have done all those requirements without necessarily applying them to a certain freshman, sophomore, junior year. You can also just out and out tell the college that the student is graduating early, because sometimes high school students in traditional schools do that also. But I probably would do it by subject, a subject-based transcript, rather than a chronological by year or semester transcript, to show that you've met all the requirements, rather than to show what you did in each particular year. Oops, I answered that one already. And let's see, you have a college counselor. I'm not sure if you mean high school, for high school students. If this book can help me in an aspect of high school counseling. Yes, this book, I've actually had many of my friends who have students in traditional schools have purchased my book, and they are using it actually with their traditionally schooled students, because there's a large chunk of the book that's basically on how do you choose a college, how do you pick the college that's right for you, how do you have rigorous courses, how do you prepare for the SAT, how do you write your college essay. That's something everybody's got to do. So there's a large chunk of this book that's applicable not just to homeschoolers, but also to high school students, and therefore to people who are counseling high school students. So these beneficial points would be the things that I cover that are good for homeschoolers but are also important for everybody. So I would recommend that you look into that if you're interested. And then here is another one, homeschool specific scholarships. Do I know of any homeschool specific scholarships? I don't know of any right off the bat. But you might check with HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, which is a wonderful organization and a big clearinghouse of all things homeschooling. And they have a section of their site for high school students. And there might be, in that financial aid topic, there might be organizations that do give homeschool students their scholarships. That does bring up a question on how do you find scholarships. One great site that I would recommend is called fastweb.com, F-A-S-T, fastweb.com, and that is an organization that that provides a big clearinghouse of all kinds of private scholarships. You can go there to that site and sign up with things that you're interested in, and then they will email you with the information on scholarships that you might want to apply for. So it sure beats searching them all out on your own. Actually, I said fastweb.com, it might be .org, so double check that. But it is a very reputable site. It is not a scam. It's a very useful site that many high school students use. So FastWeb. And then also you can look around in your local area. Sometimes you'll find that your local community gives, maybe the women's club in your area gives a scholarship, small scholarship every year to students, and your homeschool student can certainly apply for those local scholarships too. Another great source of scholarships is actually just the college and university itself. So if you come in with a high GPA, high test scores, some colleges, not all, But some colleges will have various levels and tiers of merit aid that they're going to give you. So that's very gratifying. It can make a private school education a little more affordable. So it can possibly bring it down to where you are more easily considering the decision between public and private. So definitely be aware of the college you're applying to and what these requirements are. They might have an earlier deadline for scholarship applications, and you might be able to gain some aid from those. I think that is pretty much it. That is all the questions I've seen, and I have nothing more to say for today except that there's a whole lot more I could say. So feel free to investigate the book if that's of interest to you, and I really appreciate you being here for this presentation today. I've enjoyed it, and I wish you all well on looking into colleges, figuring out which college is right for you, and getting your application materials ready so that you can present yourself and your passions in the best light possible to the college. So thank you again, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you.